So what were we doing yesterday? We did finding an equation if you know the slope and you know a point. You can write the equation. You can do a little bit of work. Remember, we had to figure out B first, the y-intercept first, and then we could write the equation. So we're going to do more writing the equation today, but what's different about, if you look at question A, what's different about this one compared to what we did yesterday? Think about the learning goal you just did, Mike. Yeah, well, we're going to use that, but the question's down here, right? There's your question. Corbin?
There's no equation for it. It's not why.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Go ahead. Yeah, that is what we're going to do. Yesterday you were given slope and you were given a point. Are we given slope here? No. So this is not quite the same question as yesterday, because we're not given the slope in order to write the equation. What are we given? We're given 2 points, and we've already done this year. I can find the slope between 2 points, right? There's the equation for it. Find the rise, find the run, by finding the difference in the y's and the difference in the x's. Does that make sense? Does that feel familiar? Hope so. So if we find the slope, then all of a sudden we have a question exactly like yesterday. So if you could do yesterday, you can do today. See, everything we're doing today is a combination of stuff we've already done in this course. Taking something from last week, something from yesterday, putting it together, and we've got a whole new process. So part of the challenge, though, is you could probably do every one of these steps and do it correctly, accurately, and solve, especially if you were good at yesterday. But it's knowing what to do on your own. So tomorrow on the quiz, if I give you a question that says, find the equation of a line, and you have to know if you're given slope or if you're not given slope, like how to do it. And that's what some people struggle with. So we'll spend a little bit of time thinking about that today. Anyway, let's get started on this first one. So what are we going to do first? If we're given 2 points, we're going to find the slope between them. Okay? As I said, we've already done this, but we'll do a little bit of review. So here's my surefire method. For getting this right, but how do I know what I put in which bracket? Well, does anybody remember? That's going to help us. X then Y. You're right. Yep, Ryan?
The second number or second point also first, like the number.
Okay, well, yeah, good.
So if in one bracket it's with x and y, then that's 1x and 1x, but then if there's 2 and it's 1x and 2x, it's 2 in the next bracket.
Right.
So if you have y2, then you want to take the second y, not the first one. So that's in the second bracket, which is still going to be the same place as the last one.
Right.
It's 7.
Okay, so that's good. So a lot of good ideas. People are on the right track. So here's how I would explain it. It doesn't matter which point you start with. It doesn't actually matter, but you can decide. Like if you like to start with the second point first, let's say, because it does say y2 minus y1, then you could do that. And there's your y, and there's your x, and so y goes on top, and x goes on the bottom. So some people have a hard time. And I'm going to show you this in a minute, but they flip the order around. So I think a really good way of doing it is start with a point and think which one's x, which one's y, put y on top, put x on bottom, and you make sure that they're on top of each other like that. X has to be on the bottom, y has to be on the top, and 1 point has to be like all on the left. Does that make sense? Okay, and so then that makes the other one, y goes on top, x goes on the bottom, and I'm good. I could have also done this. You don't write this down. I could have started with this point. Y on top, x on bottom. Y on top, x on bottom. This will actually give me the exact same answer. The thing that wouldn't work, this is what I was saying before, is if I start with a point, I put y on top and x on bottom. I can't flip them like that. See how that's 1 point, but it's like first position, second position? That's what you can't do. The other thing that people do, which is obviously wrong when you look at it this way, is they put one of the points on top, y minus x, and then they put the other point on the bottom, y minus x or whatever. That's not going to work either, right? I think it's pretty clear when you look at it that way. So the whole point of this is you have to come up with a strategy, right? I've given you a few, but you have to come up with a strategy to make sure you get the order of these values correct. Okay, let's go ahead and solve this. Negative 8 minus 4 over 1 minus 2. And you could use your calculator for this. Negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. What is negative 12 over negative 1? 2 negatives makes a positive, and 12 divided by 1 is just 12. So what did I find here? M. And now this is exactly a question from yesterday. M equals X equals Y equals. Emma, can you pick a point for me? Just like first point, second point, doesn't matter. Which one do you want to do? First point or second point? First. So the first point is 2, 4. So you have to pick a point. You use one or the other. So if I'm using 2, 4, X is 2, Y is 4. Remember, this is from yesterday. Pick one point or the other. We could have chosen the second point, 1 and negative 8. You pick the point. Y equals mx plus b. Y is 4. M is 12. X is 2 plus b. 4 equals 12 times 2 is 24. Subtract 24, subtract 24. Negative 20 equals b. And what do I have to do? What's the whole point of this? Miguel, do you know? Find the equation. Do we have the information needed to write the equation? What do we need to write an equation? Y equals mx plus b. We need m and we need b. We need to fill in those blanks. Did we find m? Yeah, we did. It's 12. Did we find x? Yeah, we did. It's negative 20. So y equals 12x minus 20. Any questions? So it's a little bit more work than yesterday, but you can see how it's very similar. Okay, you try the next one. Okay, so folks, be very careful. There's some great work out there. I'm going to show you what I have so far. I haven't finished the question yet, but what I have so far. And I really want you to reflect on, did you make a little mistake with a negative, but your steps were all correct? Because that's awesome. Like getting these steps down is really, really good. Okay, there's a lot of work to a question like this. And so if you got all the steps right, you just made a mistake with your negatives, make sure you're aware of that. Don't say, I don't understand any of this. No, you do. You're really on the right track. So I put 1 point. See how I got 1 point on the left and 1 on the right? And then very carefully, this is why all that work that you do with integers starting in like grade 7, and it's tricky. And some of you are just using your calculator. 2 minus -8, and it gives you 10, right? Because it's 2 plus 8, so it gives you 10. So even if you're not great at integer math and you keep making mistakes, get in the habit of using your calculator. It means you have to sub in carefully and then just use your calculator, right? And then -3 minus 2 gives you -5. So 10 divided by -5, and you should get a slope of -2. A few people had +2, but that's a small mistake. Choose a point. How many people chose -3,2 as their point? How many people chose the other point? I can't remember what it was. A few people did of both. Okay, so it's interesting. We'll see if we get the same answer. So here's where I'm not done yet. Y equals mx plus b. So y is 2, m is -2, x is -3 plus b. So that's 2 equals 6 plus b. Subtract 6, and I get -4 equals b. And what's the whole point of this? Y equals m, which is -2x, and then b minus 4. How are we feeling about that? Good, awesome. Okay, here's some practice. We're only doing question 1. We're not doing question 2. And you could just do every other question. So A, C, E, G, right? Just do like the first 2 columns. This is in the classroom, so do this and this. You can do all of them if you want. But to start, do those. And if you get like 4 in a row or 5 in a row perfect, then I think you're good. And so the other thing that you could do with part of the period today, we got a lot of time left, listen, is go over homework. Guys, just listen for one more second. Find all the learning goals up to about the beginning of last week. All the stuff on y equals mx plus b. Find all your learning goals. If you're away, I always try to leave you a blank one, so you should even have that. Line up those learning goals. That's what the quiz tomorrow is going to look like. So you've got enough time today in class to get like 4, 5, 6 of these questions done, and look over some of your, find your homework, organize your homework, and find all your learning goals and look at them. Or if you don't get a chance to do that, I would say really recommend doing that in MSIP. Find your learning goals and just look at them. You don't have to redo them. I'm not asking you to do anything like that. Just look at them and kind of see what the questions are like, see what your mistakes are like. I made a mistake on something last Wednesday, but I know how to do it now, so I think I'm good. Or, oh yeah, I remember I made that mistake and I still never figured that out. So, you can take a moment today and ask or something. Before the quiz tomorrow, we probably will take a little bit of time to do review, so I think that'll be useful. Okay? So there's lots of little things that you could do today.